is Matt, also known as the Survivor Guy, and today, as you can see, I am building and testing my own version of Survivor's Wrist Assured Challenge. I'm glad it didn't break during the intro. So, as you just saw, my goal for today is to build my own DIY version of Survivor's Wrist Assured Challenge, and what inspired this idea is, in Season 50, Jeff actually competes in this challenge.
Who made this challenge? This is barbaric!
And a certain number of tribe members have to beat Jeff in order to earn rice for the tribe. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you may recognize that numerous times in videos while I'm doing a challenge, I call out the fact that I believe that I can beat Jeff in a challenge. I bet I could beat Jeff in this. Like, I feel like I'd be hard-pressed to find a challenge that I couldn't beat Jeff in. So today is kind of my opportunity to put my money where my mouth is and prove that I actually can beat Jeff in something, because we do have definitive numbers. He lasted 7.5 minutes, so my goal for today is to prove that I can last 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Preferably higher than that, but anything that's higher than Jeff. Also, as I'm doing this, like with any other time I make my own challenge, I'm going to be trying to get some information about what I can do to gain a leg up on the competition. For example, is it really that easy to wrench your rope back up, or is it harder than it looks? Does it help to squat down? Things like that, things that we see people commonly do in this challenge. So, in order to test this challenge out, first I have to build it, and right away you may be thinking, Matt, you normally build stuff out of cardboard and duct tape. How the hell are you gonna make something that can hold 25% of your body weight out of cardboard and duct tape? Well, I'll tell you how. The first thing that I had to do in order to make this challenge is to make the bar that the contestants hold to hold up their bucket. And if you look at the bar that they use on Survivor, it's a long tube and it's got a really thick part in the middle, and that thick part is where the rope wraps around it. I don't know what material they make this out of on Survivor, maybe wood, kind of looks like wood, but I do have this piece of my green screen stand, which will do just fine for our purposes here today. It took me a while to think of what I could use to make it thicker in the middle. I considered just using an entire roll of duct tape, just wrapped around enough times to make it super thick, but I actually found something that I think works a lot better and requires a lot less duct tape. So what I did is I grabbed the half-used toilet paper roll from my bathroom, and the roll didn't quite fit snugly on the pole. There was a little bit of space there, so I took some extra sheets of toilet paper, wrapped those around, made it nice and thick, so that when I slid my toilet paper roll on, it was nice and snug in the middle, and then I wrapped that entire thing in duct tape to make sure the whole thing held together nicely. Now, in this challenge, there's a little bit of like a pin that sticks out so that the rope can wrap around it before it wraps around the entire thing. So at the very end, it's really that dramatic moment of, oh, it's hanging on the edge of that peg before it flies off and their bucket falls. In order to do this, I grabbed a push pin that I just had in my office supplies, and I thought, this is stupid. If I put this in the toilet paper, it's coming out immediately. There's no way it's holding 45 pounds, which is a quarter of my body weight. So what I did is I wrapped the entire thing in duct tape, you know, like one does, and just to make sure that it really stuck in there, under one of the layers of duct tape, I put a layer of super glue, and then I set it off to set overnight to really make sure that that pin stayed on there. And when I say I used a lot of duct tape, I mean whatever duct tape you're using, double it, and then double it again. You really need a lot of duct tape to hold this thing in. So now that we have our pole made, the next thing we need to do is figure out how to stand it at about arm level so that I can hold on to it while I'm holding up my bucket. And normally on Survivor, or just in real life, what I would do is get a couple of 2x4s of wood, make a little stand, drill some holes in it, and just slide it through. But again, on this channel, I don't like spending money. This is not my job, this is my hobby, and yes, you can spend some money in hobbies, but if I was dropping like $200 on supplies to make a challenge every single video, I would run out of money quite quickly. So what I did is the same thing that I always do when I'm making a Survivor challenge. I got out a cardboard box from something I ordered online. I took my pole, I traced the end of it with a Sharpie because I want to make sure the hole that it slides onto the end is nice and snug. And then I just cut out a rectangle, and I'm going to use those rectangles on either side to hold up my pole. Now, as I mentioned before, this challenge needs to support a lot of weight. So one piece of cardboard probably isn't going to support that weight. So in order to make sure that this thing was secure, I cut out 3 identical squares, and then I used my duct tape to tape all of those squares together to make sure that I had some really, really thick and sturdy cardboard, because I don't want the pole to just rip through the cardboard and the whole thing come crumbling down. And then once I had one of my sides done, what I did is just make 3 more pieces of cardboard for the other side, tape them together like I did the first set. So now I have 2 sets of cardboard blocks that slide onto my pole, 1 on each side. Now, of course, if I just took these 2 cardboard blocks and put them on the ground, I would never be able to reach the pole, which is kind of crucial for making this challenge work. So in order to get it to the height I need, what I did is I grabbed my 2 kitchen chairs and I duct taped the hell out of them to get them to stick to the chairs. So I put one on one chair, one on the other chair, and then what you can do is just slide your chairs closer together around your pole, and now the kind of main apparatus of your challenge is complete. So now we need to figure out how to get my bucket to rest on the structure that I just built. So what you're gonna wanna do is get some rope or some string. You're gonna wanna tie this kind of knot, which I found on a YouTube tutorial because I'm not very good at tying knots, to get a loop around one end. That end is going to go on the push pin that is pushed into your rod. Then you need to figure out something that will hold that rope with all that weight on it at a rather large height. For me, I have an easy solution to this because I do own a pull-up bar, and I know for a fact that that will hold 1/4 of my body weight because I do pull-ups on it, and it holds 100% of my body weight. And yes, I'm aware that what I did in the video is a chin-up and not a pull-up, so don't come at me in the comments, fitness bros. So then I'm gonna take the other end of my string and I'm gonna throw it over my pull-up bar and have it dangle down the other side. That side is what is going to attach to your bucket of weight, or in my case, backpack of weight, because I don't own a 5-gallon bucket, which I'm sure most of you do out there, so you can just use your Home Depot bucket or your Lowe's bucket or any other bucket that you may have. But it does work with a backpack if you're like me and don't own a bucket. So I'm gonna load up my backpack with 1/4 of my body weight, which is 45 pounds, approximately. It's more like 42.5, but if I'm using dumbbells as my weight, which I am because I don't have sand that I can weigh out, I'm gonna go with 45 pounds. I'm gonna overestimate a little bit to make it harder on myself. And then you're gonna wanna tie the other end of your rope around your bucket or your backpack using this knot here. Again, I looked up a tutorial on the internet because I am not good at tying knots. One thing that's important to note here is when you measure out the length of your string, you're gonna wanna start it so it's hooked on your rod without being curled up at all. Throw it over your pull-up bar or whatever you're using to hold the weight. And then you're gonna wanna have something holding the backpack about halfway up when you tie the knot, because you want the length of the string to be so that when it gets to a point where it's a foot or 2 off the ground, it falls off the thing and can fall down. You don't want it to be so long that it touches the ground before it has a chance to unroll off of your tube. Now, the hardest part here is figuring out how to start running your challenge. So in order to get to a point where I could kind of crank my thing back and have the string roll up onto the tube, I just stacked a bunch of stuff up and put the backpack on top of it. So I stacked one thing and then I was like, that's not tall enough. So then I went and I got something else and I was like, that's still not tall enough. So then I got a third thing and I'm like, all right, finally that's tall enough. And I was able to go over and crank back my tube in order to get it wrapped around. And then the only problem becomes, how do you start your challenge? All right, so I've got everything set up. I'm a little concerned about my string and whether or not it can support 45 pounds. But if it doesn't, then I'll just go out and buy stronger string. The only other concern is, with everything set up the way it currently is, I have no way of letting the bag hang on its own. So my girlfriend is off screen. As soon as I start, she's gonna remove that stuff. So if you're doing this on your own, find a friend or a family member who can help you out, or you could probably rig something up where you like tie a string around like the chair and then around your foot and you can like yank it out that way. That just seems like way too complicated and way too much work. So I'm gonna crank this thing back. All right, if you could remove the supports. Try and crank it harder. Yeah, all right, well, we need new string. All right, so it's got a few kinks that we need to iron out. I don't know what I was thinking when I built it using that string. Clearly that string is not holding 45 pounds. But I went online and I spent $10 and I bought this really strong string that's supposed to hold up to 750 pounds. So that'll take care of that. So I just swapped out the strings and then I tested it again, and this time what I found is that the weights that I had put on the chairs to hold it down were not enough and the chairs kept sliding forward. So the last modification that I made is I went to the store and another $10 I bought this non-slip fabric. I think you're supposed to use it for like your kitchen cabinets and plates and stuff like that. Nah, lame, boring. I put it underneath my chairs, and I put a lot of it underneath my chairs, under all 4 legs of the chair so that it wouldn't slip, and I stacked all the remaining dumbbells I had on top of the chair so that they didn't move at all during the challenge. Alright, so I made my modifications, I got everything set up. So, Survivor's ready? Start the timer. This is definitely my most ambitious project yet, just due to the amount of weight that my cardboard and duct tape need to hold together. So far it's not as hard as Jeff made it seem. He seemed like it was so painful right out the gate. I feel nothing right now. That sounds like I'm a 14-year-old emo boy, but you get what I'm saying. Alright, I'm feeling a little bit in my arms now, so I'm going to do my first test. I'm going to do one of these. That made 0 difference. I don't know why people do this. That made 0. Honestly, I feel like that made it harder. That, in my opinion, that made it harder. I don't know why people do that. Maybe the longer I do this, the more it hurts, and then just moving around gives me a little bit of relief, but I don't see the value in that right now. I should do the intro while I'm doing this. So, hello everyone, my name is Matt, also known as the Survivor Guy. As you can see, I believe my overview is intro. You know what? I take it back. That did feel a little bit better. I think it's a mental thing. When my ass starts the record player. How the hell did that even happen? That's crazy. Is it spinning? It's spinning. Yeah, do you want to come stop the record player so it's not... Copyright! Ah! I promise I won't drop this on you.
Are you gonna keep some of that?
I mean, I'm gonna have to block out the copyrighted music and I'm gonna have to censor your face, but...
Oh my god.
Alright, chat, make your predictions now. Do I drop the weight first, or does my thing fall apart first? So I'm hearing a lot of creaking and groaning that I'm not a huge fan of. Alright, I don't know if that picked up on the camera, but the little wiggle of the fingers, that helped a lot. That I felt like my hands were about to start cramping up, the little finger wiggle that they do sometimes. Big benefit. Alright, we're doing the cranking. The cranking doesn't work because my chairs just slide forward, but I cranked it up a little bit. Cranking isn't as hard as you would think, and again, that sounded way too sexual, but you get my meaning. Can you see on the camera the way that my 2 chairs have kind of like slid inwards towards each other? And I realize as I'm saying this, my thing is slipping quite a bit. But every time I try and crank it like that, my chairs slide forward because I have the non-stick stuff on them. I can't really slide them back at all, which would not be an issue in Survivor, just saying. If this thing drops relatively soon, that's my excuse. But man, my hands hurt. Uh-oh. The duct tape is coming off that right a little bit. My chairs have slid so far forward, it's probably not going to slide off the thing when it hits the ground anymore. But I'm not giving up! Dig deep, as they say. That's time. I beat Jeff! Let's go! Honestly, never a doubt in my mind. Always knew I could do it. That's why I've been saying it in my videos for a very long time. Jeff, you got nothing on me. So some of the other things that I learned through practicing this challenge may seem a little self-explanatory considering you see survivors do them all the time. But when they squat down like that to change their grip, I don't necessarily think that it actually relieves any of the pressure or the pain in your hands. I think it's just like a mental thing that any kind of change makes it feel less bad than it did before, you know? Like your brain's in a state where it's like, this could not possibly be worse, so you make some kind of change to your position, and your brain's like, since it couldn't possibly be worse, it must be better, and that's why it feels a little bit better for all of about 5 seconds before the pain starts up again. But the one thing that really, really helped is when you're holding on, and you see sometimes they kind of like go like that, where they release one hand and they like wiggle their fingers around like the other. When I see that on TV, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, by taking one hand off, you're putting all the weight on your other hand, so that hand's gonna tire faster, and you're just making it harder on yourself because you're removing one hand. But that assumption was very, very wrong. That is one of the most helpful things, actually, no, that is the most helpful thing that I did to relieve the pain during this challenge. Just wiggling your fingers like that, because you feel like your hand's about to like cramp up from just holding so tight in one position for so long, and that just goes away, and it's like pure bliss for like a solid 10-15 seconds, then the pain comes back again. And one of the things that I wanted to test the most was when you take the pole and you twist it and you kind of wrench your way back into the challenge, because it looks on TV like it would be really, really hard. And the one time that I was able to successfully do it, which I think was only the first time, it really wasn't that bad. Like, it doesn't hurt your hands any more than they already do. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test it out all that much during my challenge, because even with the non-slip stuff on the bottom of the chairs and all that weight piled on top, you saw, especially later on in the challenge, when I tried to bring it back up, the chairs slid forward a little bit, and I didn't want to slide the chairs so far forward that the backpack would hit the ground before it came off the thing. So there were a lot of like logistical things that wouldn't be an issue in Survivor that kind of held me back. So really, I think you can add like 2 or 3 minutes to my total time so it doesn't look that pathetic, you know? If Joe's hanging up there for an hour at 11 minutes, that's pretty good. But anyway, my biggest takeaway is I'm kind of proud of myself. I did not think that I was actually going to be able to build this with the low budget materials that I had. So the fact that it held together for the entire duration of the challenge was just like blowing my mind. And not only that, but the fact that I did hang in there for 9 minutes, which again, doesn't seem that impressive in the grand scheme of things, but when you think about how many people dropped before Jeff and how many people in this challenge we do see dropping before that 9-minute mark, it just kind of shows me that I can be a little bit of a contender during immunity challenges, you know? I'm not gonna be like Rizzo, where I'm the first out of every single challenge and everyone has completely written me off from ever winning an immunity. But anyway, thank you all for watching this video. I put a lot of effort into this one, so if you could like and subscribe if you like the video, I would greatly appreciate that. If you attempt to build this monster yourself, let me know how it goes for you in the comments. And if you work at CBS, give me a call. See you next time, everyone.